Hi, I'm Alasdair Post-Quinn from Falling Blocks Designs. I've been developing double knitting techniques and designing patterns for over 20 years and have helped thousands of knitters like you learn and expand their knowledge of double knitting. In 2022 and 2023, I ran a series of recorded virtual workshops, and I'm now releasing those recordings for free. Why? Check the blog post I've linked below. You'll also find a handout for this workshop and some other useful links. Please note, this recording is from a live recorded virtual workshop, so it's not as polished or concise as a tutorial made for this format might normally be. As I have time, I may choose to re-record some of these workshops. Without further ado, please enjoy.
I'm Alasdair Post-Quinn from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm here because you're all here. I'm going to do a quick little slideshow introduction. Many of you have probably already seen, but I know that there are a number of other folks watching this afterwards, so just going to do that quickly, and then I'll do a little show and tell here, and then we'll get into the actual knitting. So starting off with this slide, which you've already seen. Double-knitting.com is my website. I am Falling Blocks Designs. Other place you can find me online, my blog, my Facebook page, my Ravelry page, my mailing list. You had the opportunity when you signed up for this workshop to sign up on the mailing list. But if you actually go to the link that I just stuck in the chat, double-knitting.com/signup, not only does it give you the option to sign up for the main mailing list, it also gives you the opportunity to sign up for the various workshop interest groups, which as I schedule new virtual workshops, you will be the first to hear about those if you're in one or more of those little groups. I've done a couple of books. Extreme Double Knitting was my first. The original came out in 2011. This is the revised edition that came out in 2018 after I got the rights back from the publisher. In between those, Double or Nothing came out. They both actually have a decent amount of off-the-grid double knitting. You can see the Hesperos scarf right here on the cover of Double or Nothing. I'll show you some others in the show and tell. And I've got some standalone patterns, including, of course, the Victorian raffia, which is one of the primary reasons why a lot of people take this workshop. So that's that. And now on to the show and tell. So we're going to start off with a couple of pieces out of my revised Extreme Double Knitting. This one is called Braddock, and it is, as you can see, these sort of Celtic cable motifs. It's sort of washed out there, but hopefully you can still see it well enough. I'll turn it inside out for a little better contrast. There we go. So anyway, as you can see, down here at the bottom, we've got increases and decreases going right from the beginning. And so essentially what's happening is that at each edge of these banners, there's a decrease on one side and an increase on the other to move it over and move it on a diagonal. And that happens in every round for each of these things. So as we go up into the crown, we keep moving those stitches and we get this really pronounced spiral as it decreases. The larger you make this hat, and the sizing is really easy. Every stitch that you add between these two, you add it evenly, adds an inch to the sizing. So, or every one you subtract removes an inch. But the more space that's in between the banners, the more pronounced this spiral gets. So that's Braddock. The general idea behind off-the-grid double knitting is that every increase has a corresponding decrease, every decrease has a corresponding increase, unless you want to do shaping. But you start off by having corresponding increases and decreases to do patterns. that that have smooth edges rather than jagged ones. So if you've ever seen the original version of the Four Winds hat, I don't have one here, unfortunately. You'd notice that the points of the compass rose are actually jagged because they are just, regular charted knitting. This is using off the grid double knitting to do smooth points, smooth edges, just to smooth out the look of the compass rose. So I'll bring in the Victorian raffia. This pattern was actually originally designed by a designer in Ireland named Kieran Foley. I took this pattern. It's called Scandinavian. It's either Scandinavian or Scandinavian wave. I think it's just Scandinavian. I took the pattern and I changed it somewhat, and then I used it really to practice double knitting increases and decreases. There are 14 different types of increase and decrease in this pattern. This is, of course, counting knits and purls separately. So 7 different types of double knit increase and decrease. So I got in touch with Kieran when I was working on this thing and asked him if he'd allow me to publish it with credit to him for the original pattern, and of course my modifications, and he said no. This was, of course, quite a long time ago while I was working on my original book. After the book came out, about 5 years after I initially pitched the idea to him, he wrote back and said, well, actually, sure, let's go ahead and do a joint pattern. So I went back to the drawing board, ripped the entire thing out, started fresh, and this is what I came out with. So Victorian raffia is now a pattern where all the proceeds are split between me and Kieran Foley, and as you can see, it uses heavy increases and decreases. Not only for the stuff that goes on within these rivers, this sort of knots and crosses look, but also the rivers themselves get moved around with increases and decreases. So when he denied me that that opportunity to publish it initially, it was actually probably a good thing, because 5 years of perspective gave me some better ideas of things to do with it, and it came out to be a much better pattern than if I had published it at that point. But it also gave me the opportunity to think about what else I could do with the techniques that I had learned from working on that so far. And that's where Silk Road came out. This is a necktie, Silk Road. It's in my book, Extreme Double Knitting. And as you can see, there isn't a single stitch in this piece that is straight up and down. This is the epitome of off the grid double knitting. And it's using those knots and crosses, but modified subtly to make spirals rather than simply diamonds. And there's a little trick to how this is done. And it's a very simple trick. Essentially, all you do is you shift there's an open and then a close. So you've got the open and then the close. If you put them right on top of each other, you get a diamond. If you shift them over, you get something a little different. So I just shift the open and the close over by a little bit, and it creates spirals. It's just a trick mostly, but a fun one. I'm going to show a couple of my new pieces. These are from the Wuxing 5 Elements collection. These are all using, the entire collection uses off the grid double knitting, but also pushes double knitting in various other directions. This one is called Agni Deus. They are all based on the Chinese 5 elements. So this is the element of fire. And as you can see, I'm using heavy increases down here at the bottom and then more gradual decreases at the top of each of these little motifs. So they don't completely line up with each other. The corresponding increases to these decreases are not completely lined up with where the increases happen. So there's just a little bit of texturalness that happens. It's hard to see now that the thing is finished, but while you're working it, there's a little bit of pooching out that each of these little things does. At the end of all of this, when you have the all of these increases stacked up on top of each other, it creates this ladder effect in the middle. And so what I did is I laddered up with beads. So I've covered up the ladder with beads. And on this layer, it's got flames with little glowing embers. They're little red translucent beads with a little iridescence on the inside. And then on the other side, matte black beads and smoke. This one is just a lot of fun to design and knit, and yeah. Bead Biz actually has a kit for that one with beads included and everything. This one is called Pluvium. It's the water hat. I'm sorry about the washout effect again on the video. Again, I'll turn it inside out. Hopefully you'll be able to see it a little better. Again, you can look at this on the website and see better photos of it than you're seeing here, but you see the general idea. That shape that I used for a flame and the last one is now a water droplet. This is the thing that they all share, is this shape of a heavily increased and then more gradually decreased sort of teardrop shape. So in this one, it's a water droplet and it's on textured double knitting. So we've got a pearl texture on the background. This is the simplest of all the hats in that collection. Cynthia, I see your hand, but I'm going to show one more piece and then you can certainly ask a question. And then this is the last one, which is called Bakote, which is also again using those teardrop shapes, but in this case it's knots in wood, and they are some of them are straight up and down, and but most of them are going on the diagonal. And this is 3-color off the grid double knitting. It's the first time I've done that. I had a lot of trouble with the gauge on this, and it's as such has come out rather larger than expected, but it actually still fits me quite nicely if I roll the brim up twice, because it's also quite tall. So this is quite a nice warm hat. The other side doesn't look appreciably different, honestly, because it's just this sort of chaos of 3 colors in this wood grain effect. So, all right, so that's the show and tell. Cynthia, did you have a question? Or was that an actual raised hand or just, okay. All right. So, so you should all have about this much double knitting to start with, which is 2 rows of plain double knitting and then 2 rows with some judiciously placed color work, which we'll use to begin the first row 5 in the chart. You should also have your handout, which is this will show up a lot better on the hand camera, so I'll switch to the hand camera. So you should have your handout. You really only need the last page here. The rest of it is mostly just there to remind you of other stuff that you will have learned after the workshop is done. And we're going to start in on row 5, having done rows 1 through 4 in the homework. And this is one of those workshops where where the very first row that we do has the vast majority of techniques in it. And so we've got here a right slanting decrease, a right lifted increase, a left lifted increase, a left slanting decrease. And then we repeat all those again. In between each technique, there's 1 plain pair, always in AB. The increases are going to be done in BA pairs because we're going to be building the bottom of these diamonds out of the points that we've already created. The decreases are just there to take up the slack of the increases. So we always have a corresponding increase and decrease. The decreases just happen out in the empty space, the motif, or the background space. After we've done row 5, row 6 is just a rest row or matching row, a row in which everything matches what's in the row below, color and stitch. And that is, in fact, the case with all even numbered rows, layer 2 rows in this pattern. That after all of the craziness of the layer 1 rows, the odd numbered rows, you have a rest row where you just have to match everything that you've got on the needle. The challenge there, of course, is that you have to make sure that you do the rows with all the increases and decreases correctly, so that the matching row actually does reflect what is in the chart. Let's see, a couple of quick things about the chart. As with any other double knit chart, every square is a pair. The layer 1 and layer 2 relations are the same as they are in standard double knitting. So this is an AB pair on layer 1 or a BA pair on layer 2, vice versa for this. The symbols for the increases and decreases are likely to show up on either AB or BA pairs. So you have to keep your eye on not only the technique, but the color order of the pair that's either created or that is created when you do that technique. So yeah, let's get going. So we're going to start off, as I mentioned, with row 5. A couple quick caveats about the camera here. I'm just going to brighten this a tiny bit. There we go. I've done my best to make sure that that the contrast is high and that and the focus is as clean as it can be. Move there we go. Oops. Sorry, just adjusting lighting and positioning here. And if you need to see something done again, if you need to see it done at a different angle, or if I just drift off the screen, please let me know. The easiest way to reach me is by just typing into the chat. I will then be able to answer your question at an opportune time. And I'll just repeat the question up on the video. If you're not reaching me on chat, you're welcome to just unmute yourself, but it keeps the video a little cleaner if you just ask questions via chat. Okay, so we're going to start off row 5, and you can follow along with your own chart with a linked pair. This is worked the same way as it usually is. Knit through the back of the loop in color A. Yarns to the front, put your needle into the next stitch purlwise, twist the 2 yarns around each other, and finish the purl. Then we're just going to do one plain pair. As I mentioned, every technique has a plain pair in between it and the next one. So linked pair, plain pair, decrease, plain pair, increase, plain pair, etc. So so the next thing we're going to do is a decrease. So all decreases, all single decreases, well, really all decreases require a reordering of the pairs that are involved with that decrease. So for a single decrease, we're going to be reordering 2 pairs from knit, purl to knit, knit, purl, purl. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing that. Regardless of the direction of the decrease, we still need to reorder the pairs so that we can do the decrease. We just need our knits together and our purls together so that we can do a knit decrease followed by a purl decrease. And I'm just going to demo quickly with my fingers what we're about to do. So you can see we have a knit, a purl, a knit, and a purl. All we really need to do is take the two knits and the two purls and put them together. So the easiest way to do that is simply to switch the two middle stitches. The first purl and the second knit switch. The outer two stay where they are, and then you can decrease. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do that. The way that I generally do it is something like a cabling without a cable needle technique. And it involves holding onto the two knits, skipping over the purl, holding onto them at the front of your work, and then pulling your left-hand needle out of 3 stitches. And this leaves 1 loose stitch at the back, which you will then catch. So that gives you 2 knits in a row and 2 purls in a row. And then you can just put these back on the left-hand needle and you're good to go with a decrease. I'm going to show you one other way to do that before I show the first decrease. So here we are back at the beginning of that. You can also, if you don't like the idea of dropping and picking up a stitch, if you're worried about losing that, you can instead slip 1 and then slip these next 2 as if to knit 2 together. So put your needle into both of those stitches as if to knit 2 together and just slip. Note that that changes the order of the stitches, but it also twists them. So as you pass them back, you have to untwist them. And again, that gets you 2 knits in a row, followed by 2 purls in a row. So I recommend that you try both of those methods. Largely, I want you to be somewhat comfortable with the first method because when we get to the double decrease, there is no such shortcut. So you're going to have to at least know how that works. But I'll demo that again when we get there at row 7. So now every decrease is paired. So we have a knit side version followed by a purl side version. And just to let you know, the pairing is, there is always a pairing of a technique done through the back of the loop and a technique not done through the back of the loop. So the easiest way to remember which is most people can remember which knit side decrease slants in which direction. So you start with a knit side decrease. And in this case, since it's a right slanting decrease, we're just going to do a knit 2 together. So knit 2 together is not done through the back of the loop. It's just a normal decrease. And therefore, the purl side one must be done with a technique that uses a back of the loop method. And that is, for the purl side decrease, an SSP, which is like an SSK, but not exactly. And the SSP works like this. You're going to slip 2 stitches individually knitwise. Yes, they are purls, but you're slipping them knitwise. Then you're going to pass them back. So they're now seated backwards on the needle. And you're going to purl 2 together through the back of the loop. This is not as hard as it normally might be because you just untwisted them so that it's easier to do this. So you insert your needle into both of the stitches as if to purl through the back of the loop, but purl 2 together through the back of the loop, like this. There we go. And that is a right slanting decrease on the knit side, followed by a right slanting decrease on the purl side. And I'll flip it over so you can see that the decrease is slanting off toward this edge. Of course, since I've turned it over, it looks left slanting, but as viewed from this side, it is a right slanting purl side decrease. Does anyone need me to do that over again now? Keep in mind, I will have a chance to do it over again here. If not, I will just move on. All of these techniques will get demoed twice in this row. So if you don't immediately catch it here, then I'll be showing it again very shortly. All right, so that's a fairly simple one. The SSP is the weirdest thing about it. So we reorder the pairs from knit purl to knit knit purl purl, do a knit side decrease, and then the paired purl side decrease. In this case, it's a knit two together followed by an SSP. Then, as I mentioned, every technique has one plain pair between it and the next one. So we're going to do one more plain AB pair. And now we're into increases. So the increases that I use are lifted increases. I do use make ones in other locations and in for other reasons, but in this workshop, I'm going to be showing you lifted increases. If we have time later on in the workshop, I can show you a make one, just so you get an idea of what that, how that works. But lifted increases in double knitting are really, in my opinion, the most ideal for this style of decorative increases and decreases, because they're heavily directional and they are the least likely to create holes. But the way that you pick up the stitch is important, and the way that you work it is also important. The important thing is that you want the stitch that you are increasing into, or the part of a stitch, it's a leg of a stitch, that you are increasing into, to be twisted after you're done with the technique, so that the hole that might show up is minimized. So before I start in on this, I'm first going to mention that there is no reordering of pairs that needs to be done here. You're going to do an increase into a knit side location, followed by an increase into a purl side location on the other side before moving on with the next pair. So it's very easy to forget that, to do the knit side one and then immediately work this stitch. We don't want to work the stitch until we've completed the pair. So we do increases in pairs always. So you do the knit side one followed by the purl side one before moving on with the next pair. The other thing about the increase terminology that I use here that's a little different from normal is rather than using front and back, I use inside and outside. And the reason for that is that the way that you are inserting your needle is going to be perhaps a little confusing if you're always thinking about front and back, but inside and outside are always the same. Inside is the space between the layers. So note that I've stuck my needle in between the layers, and so my needle is now inside the work, right? Outside is either this layer or this layer on the outside of the work, depending on which layer you're working on. So inside to outside on the front is back to front, inside to outside on the back is front to back, but it's always inside to outside. So those are the terms that I use. So for lifted increases, we're going to use one of the needles to pick up a leg of either the next or the previous stitch. So for a right lifted increase, which is what we're about to do here, we are going to be using the right needle and the right leg of the stitch one below the next stitch on the left-hand needle. So this is the stitch, and we're going to go one below that. So this is the stitch one below the next on the left-hand needle, and we're going to go into the right leg of that from inside to outside, like this. So when you've got that on the needle, you want to make sure that your yarns are at the back when you do this, because you are about to make a knit stitch. Once you've got that seated on the needle, on the right needle, you're going to take your left needle and you're going to put it into the front of that loop, which positions you for a knit through the back of the loop. And now you're going to remember that this is a BA pair that you're creating. And you're also increasing into B, so you're going to be making a B stitch with it. So you're then going to complete that with a knit through the back of the loop. So notice that when I've finished that, the resulting leg of the stitch that I increased into is twisted. I've got this little point down here where the stitch began. The picked up stitch or the leg, the twisted leg, is now coming up in between the two
stitches on the needles, wrapping around the stitch I just created, and then back in again. It creates something a little like a ram's horn. So before we go forward and do anything with this, we need to finish the pair. So yarns to the front, flip it upside down a little bit. And again, you're going to use your right hand needle and you're going to look for the corresponding stitch on the other layer. So it's one down from the next stitch on the left hand needle on this layer. So this is the stitch, this is one down. And then you're going to go into that again from inside to outside, like this. Once you've got that on the needle, you can put your hands back to a normal position, and you're going to put your left hand needle into the back of that so that you're positioning your right hand needle for a normal purl. And then you can finish the purl. So this also follows the same rhythm as I mentioned for the decreases, where one half of it is done normal and the other half is done through the back of the loop. In this one, you'll remember that I'll just redo it quickly. With that in mind, you're picking up this leg from inside to outside, and you're doing a knit through the back of the loop. But then on the other side, you're picking it up in the same way, but sort of mirror image version. And you're doing a normal purl. So one through the back of the loop and one normal. It's the same rhythm. So I'm just going to show the other side of this, especially given that the contrast is a little easier to see here. And you can again see that ram's horn look where we're starting at the tip of the stitch and the yarn or the loop is coming up in between the two needles, looping around the stitch I just created and coming back in. If it does the other way, if it goes the other way and comes out first and then loops around, it's going to create a hole. So try to avoid that. The way that happens is if you either don't pick it up from inside to outside, but go from outside to inside, or you do go from inside to outside, but you knit normally where you should have done a knit through the back of the loop, or purl through the back of the loop where you should have purled normally. So there are a couple of different ways that it could become untwisted. But as long as you pick it up in the right direction and you work it in the right direction, you should end up with that twist. Okay, so again, I'll have a chance to demo all of this again. So I'm going to move on with one more pair. All of the plain pairs that come between these stitches are in AB. So here in the middle of this, above the point of the diamond that we're creating here, we're creating a new diamond, of course, in the opposite color. So we're going to do an AB pair here in the middle. This AB pair has the same function as the first BA pair that you did in this column. After we are a couple of rows beyond it, we're going to do an increase into it the same way that we did an increase into this one. Okay, so we've done a right slanting decrease and a right lifted increase. Now it's on to the lefts. So the next thing we're going to do is a left lifted increase. Now this increase is going to be done into the same stitch that we did the right lifted increase into, which means that because it's been pulled in one direction, it's going to have a slightly smaller loop for us to look into grabbing down here. So it might be a little more fiddly to find it. These two techniques taken together are technically a double increase, although a double increase is really just two single increases on either side of a central column. So we are going to do this with our left needle and the left leg. And the leg that we're looking at is 2 stitches below the previous one on the right hand needle. Previously, it was 1 stitch below the one on the left hand needle. In order to get to the same stitch,
we need to now count 2 down because we've worked a new stitch on top of that column. So this is the stitch we just worked. This is 1 down. This is 2 down. And just be careful as you're looking to grab this loop, because it's very easy to grab also the one above it. You want to make sure that you are only grabbing the one loop and not the loop and its immediate descendant there. So again, you're going to go from inside to outside. So left hand needle, left leg of the stitch 2 below the previous one on the right hand needle. You're going to insert from inside to outside. Being careful to only catch that one stitch. If it helps, you can sort of use your thumb to push the other one out of the way. So this one is going to be knitted normally. Now, when you knit this, it's going to feel twisted because it's seated backwards on the needle. When you pick it up from inside to outside with the left-hand needle, you end up with it seated backwards on that needle. And so when you knit it normally, it's going to feel twisted, and it should be, because this is how we keep that twist, that ram's horn thing that we are trying to do on the other side. So again, the loop comes from the ram's nose down here at the tip of the stitch and up between the stitch that I just made and the previous one, and then around the outside, looking a little like a ram's horn. Then yarns to the front, flip the work upside down a little bit so that you can see the other side. And then again, you're going to use your left-hand needle to go into the left leg of the stitch 2 below the previous stitch on the right-hand needle on this layer. So here's the stitch, here's 1 below, here is 2 below. So once you've got that on the needle, you can put your hands back to normal position. And again, this is inside to outside. It's always going to be inside to outside. Once you've got that on the needle, you'll notice that it is seated forward on the needle. In order to twist that, I want to make sure I am purling through the back of the loop. You'll feel that this is twisted. Fortunately, it's only one stitch and not a purl two together through the back of the loop twisted, so it's not nearly as hard as it could be, but it is still a little fiddly. Having finished that, I'm just going to flip it over and show you again what this looks like. We're starting down here at the ram's nose, coming up, looping around to finish that ram's horn look. If this looks a little messy right now, don't worry. After we've done the next row, it will relax and look a lot cleaner. I'm just going to demo that again quickly without quite so much commentary. Always using the left needle and the left leg to do a left lifted increase. So left needle goes into the left leg inside to outside of the stitch 2 below the previous on the right hand needle, and then is knitted normally. Yarns to the front, find the corresponding stitch on the other side with the left hand needle going from inside to outside through that, and then purl through the back of the loop. Again, knit normally, purl through the back of the loop, same general rhythm as we've encountered so far. All right, now one more plain pair in AB. And then the last technique is a left slanting decrease. So the decreases, as before, require that we reorder our pairs from knit, purl to knit, knit, purl, purl. So I go through the 2 knits. I pull my needle out of 3 stitches. I catch the purl that flips out to the back on the left-hand needle, and then I can put my 2 stitches that I was holding back on the left-hand needle so they're ready to work. You can also use that other method where you slip 1, then slip 2 as if to knit 2 together, and then pass them back to untwisting them as you go. And that also gets you to this point. So this is a left slanting decrease, and as before, it helps to remember what your knit side left slanting decrease is. Most people use an SSK, but an SKP would also work here. So SSK, slip to knitwise, put your needle into the front of both stitches, positioning yourself for a knit two together through the back of the loop, which is what we're going to do. So that's our left slanting knit side decrease. And then yarns to the front. And the purl side version is just a simple purl two together. So this is the easier of the two decreases. The SSK, which is a fairly normal thing to have to do in knitting, and the purl two together, which again is also fairly normal. The SSP is a little less normal. So as you can see, this slants in the direction of the space between the two needles. So left on this side, and on this side, when turned over, it appears to be slanting right, but of course, it's because I turned it over. It is still a left slanting decrease, purl side decrease, as viewed from this layer. So that's a lot of technique all at once, and we're going to do it again. So one more plain pair here in the very middle of the piece. And then we're going to do a right slanting decrease, a plain pair, a right lifted increase, a plain pair, a left lifted increase, a plain pair, a left slanting decrease, a plain pair, and a slipped pair at the very end. So still a lot of technique to go, but it's all stuff that you've done before, all stuff that was demoed already here, or in the case of the slipped pair, that you've done at least in the homework. So again, I'll demo the other method for reordering these pairs. So slip one, slip two as if to knit two together, pass them back, untwisting them as you go, if necessary. And then we're going to knit two together in color A, yarns to the front, SSP in color B. So slip two knitwise, pass two back, purl two together through the back of the loop. Then one plain pair. And I just want to reiterate that if you have any questions on this, please feel free to drop them in the chat. If you have any questions watching this later on, if you don't have a Vimeo account, which is the place where I post these videos, you can't leave a comment, but you can always email me, and my email address is at the bottom of all of my handout pages. You can also just respond to any of the emails you've gotten from me, and that will get to me as well. So anyway, continuing. I'm always going to be going inside to outside, so I'm going to use my right hand needle for a right lifted increase, right hand needle, right leg of the stitch, one below the next on the left hand needle. And I had a request to go a little slower on this one, which I'm happy to do. 1 second, just going to take a quick swig of water. Everyone else hydrate too if you like. Okay. So yeah, this is a fairly involved technique here, but just remember that you can take it step by step. We're going to do a knit side version first, then the purl side version, then we're out of the woods for a moment while we do a plain pair, and then back into the woods again. So yarns to the back, you're going to use your right needle to go into the right leg of the stitch, one below the next on your left hand needle. So this is the stitch. This is one below right here. Just be careful that you don't catch the loop that's on the needle as well. You just want to go through that one stitch alone from inside to outside. So with that on the needle, you're going to then take your left-hand needle, put it into the front of this. Now you can just pass it back here and then knit through the back of the loop, but because of the way it ends up seated on the needle, it's just easier to not have to fish for that loop again. So in much the same way a lot of people do SSKs, you set it up and then you just stick your left-hand needle through the loop so that you position yourself for a knit through the back of the loop. So what I'm doing is picking up the loop from inside to outside, taking my left-hand needle, putting it through the front of that loop, which positions my right-hand needle for a knit through the back, and then finishing the knit in color B, same color as what I'm increasing into. What that should get you, if you picked up in the right direction from inside to outside and you knit through the back of the loop, is a twisted loop around the new stitch. Then yarns to the front, flip the work upside down a little bit. If it's hard for you to do this, or it's hard for you to see it upside down, you can also just flip the whole thing over. Just remember that right and left change places when you do this. So the right needle that you were using has become your left needle. And you still want to use it to go into that stitch, one below the next one on the other needle right here. But you can't work it from here. So once you've got the needle into that loop right there, however you did that, you can flip it back over. And now you're going to take the left-hand needle and put it into the back of that loop. What you're really doing here is just dumping the loop onto the left-hand needle, and then you're going to purl it normally. In much the same way as we prepared the previous one, it's just easier to not take this off of the needle and just put your left-hand needle into the proper place to position yourself for a normal purl, which is what we're about to do here. So there we go. I'm just going to take that out once and do it once more without commentary. So there we are. That's the pair, the increased pair, and now we need to work into that central column. The column on top of the pair into which we increased. And we're going to work an AB pair here. The next one is the left lifted increase. And again, this is a little fiddly because the stitch has already been tugged off in one direction, which means the leg that we're going for in this case is a little smaller and tighter. It's a little harder to find potentially. But you're going to count 2 down from the previous stitch on your right hand needle. This is the stitch, this is 1 down, and just below that should be 2 down right here. And again, you want to make sure that you're only going through that one loop and not the loop and its immediate, the one immediately above it, like this. And then you're going to knit this normally. Like this. And it's going to feel twisted as you do this because it is twisted. You want it to stay twisted, which gets you this twisted loop that you are trying to create. The loop into which you are increasing should be twisted to reduce the possibility that there might be a hole where the increase happens. So then yarns to the front, flip the work upside down a little bit. Again, you can, if you're having trouble doing that, you can just turn it over. Use what is now your right-hand needle to go into this stitch, 2 below the previous on your left-hand needle on this layer. So here's one, or here's the stitch, here's 1 below, and the one I've got my needle in now is 2 below right here. As usual, inside to outside. And once you've got that on the needle, you can turn your work back over again if that's what you needed to do. And then you're going to purl this through the back of the loop, and it's going to feel twisted because it is. The act of purling a stitch that is seated normally on the needle through the back of the loop creates a twist. So again, I'm going to demo those 2 increases again without commentary. There we are, 1 left lifted increase. I hope that that was slow enough. And 1 plain pair after that, and now our final decrease in the row. Again, we need to reorder our pairs. So we have 2 knits in a row and 2 purls in a row, and then yarns to the back. We're going to, oops, SSK. In A, and then yarns to the front, purl 2 together in B. And then 1 plain pair. And the last thing to do is the slipped pair. So yarns to the back, slip 1, yarns to the front, slip the other, both purl-wise. So that is the first row. And don't worry, we've taken an hour to do 1 row. Don't worry, not every row takes as long. It's just that this one has a lot of technique, and it's the first time that we've had to do it. Rows beyond this are going to be are going to take less time. Jermaine says, I have an extra stitch. Where is it? Is it on here, here, or here? Oftentimes extra. Where is it?
The end.
At the end, the end you just did?
Yes.
So are you sure you did a decrease here? Because that's the most obvious thing. If you missed your decrease, you'd end up with an extra stitch.
I only did 1 decrease. Okay.
Yeah, if you did the decrease here, but you forgot the one here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Forgot the purl.
okay. Oh, an extra stitch, not an extra pair. Yeah, so you did the knit side one, but you didn't do the purl side one. Yep, there you go. Unfortunately, it's not very far away, so easy to go back to and fix. All right, so whether or not you have actually finished this entire row, the next row is just a rest row. So finish up the row, and then you're just going to go back and match everything you have on the needle, color and stitch. And this will allow all of the stuff you just did to relax, and it will become a little more visible. Right now it might look a little bit mashed up, and maybe not that clean. But once you've done the rest row, it will enable all of this stuff to relax, and it will start to actually look like points of diamonds. So don't forget to do a linked pair at the beginning, as always. And then your background is going to be worked in BA pairs. Your motifs are going to be worked in AB pairs, but largely you're just matching what you have on the needle. Okay, so now as you can see, it's relaxed quite a bit. And what you should have is these little pronounced V shapes. Now you remember where you started was a little bit of double knitting with a couple of pairs in opposite color from the background that were stacked up on this column right here. You have that again if you've done the color changing in the middle of this diamond, as you should have. You have a pair followed by another pair in the same column in the opposite color from what immediately surrounds it. It's not the opposite color of the background, but it's opposite color of what immediately surrounds it. So we're going to do the same kind of thing that we just did here with this first diamond with the next one. But the center diamond is going to be all the motif, all the background color to make them hollow on the inside. And so the middle pair is just going to continue in AB. So we're going to end up with 3 ABs in a row after we've done the increases here. I'm going to give everybody a minute or two to get to this point. And then we'll move on with row 7. And something new and special is happening in row 7, or a couple of new and special things are happening in row 7. So I'll talk about that as we're about to get into it. And just to let you know, given timing, probably what we're going to do is row 7 and then the rest row, and then take a little break. And then we'll come back and do rows 9 and beyond. Jermaine says one side of the diamond has a point and the other side is like a straight line. the color changes here. I'm going to share my spotlight with you just so I can see yours. One moment. There we are. Can you hold that up? I just want to see what it looks like. Up to the camera. Thank you. Okay, so that side looks perfect. Let's see the other side. Hold it up. That side looks a little messy, but I think the technique is there. Let's see how the next row goes. I don't think it's bad. I think it might just be a little bit of tension weirdness. Cool. Yeah, it's really easy to make mistakes with the colors too, but it doesn't look like that's what happened with you. It looks like the colors are all where they should be. So at the very least, if you've got the colors in the right order here, you have somewhere to move on from, even if what you have isn't quite exactly the same on either side. All right, does anyone need more time? Feel free to either speak up or toss in the chat.
I do.
Okay. And Susan, where are you in your swatch right now? Just so I can get an idea of how much time.
I've got the front looks okay. The back is like not. And I had some trouble at the beginning because my yarn keeps splitting.
Oh yeah, that can be annoying, and especially in this situation because you so much inserting of needles into things. Having splitty yarn can be a real pain for this.
Plus, I've got to translate because I do like a Norwegian pearl.
Oh, fun. Okay. So, sorry, was that another question?
That was me.
Hey, Cynthia, go ahead.
So I'm having the same problem I did in the last class where I need to say row 5 again, and because I can't finish the row because I don't remember how to do
the techniques.
And
which technique?
So I never catch up.
Okay.
And that's what happened to me last time, and I signed off. So.
Okay. So which technique are you running into trouble with? Because I can demo again. I can do a mock demo here, or I can just rip it back if I need to. So where are you stuck, Cynthia?
I don't even.
I mean, if you want to just hold it up and show me.
I did the left-slanting decrease.
You did the last left-slanting decrease.
Because I was basically I wanted to see the first pair of.
So are you here? You couldn't be here because if you were here, then you would have finished it. No. So you're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just.
So you need. Are all of the techniques giving you trouble, or is it one particular one? I just want to know what I need to demo.
The problem is I don't catch up. It's like I see it one time, and then I need to see it another time to do it. But you're already moving ahead.
I've gone too fast. Okay.
Well, not just too fast. I need to see it more than one time.
Well, and that's why I have all of these techniques in twice, so that I get a chance to show them twice.
Yeah, you show them twice, but then I'm still at the beginning of the row.
Okay.
And then I don't remember it for the rest of the row.
Okay, so here's a suggestion, just to make it a little easier for me to continue. The next row has the same techniques, but missing the decreases. Would it help you if I demoed the decreases out here? And then even though the color order is going to be different in here, I can demo the decrease and then take it back out again. just so that you get a chance to see the decrease. You'll have to put it in place where it shows up in your work. But I can demo the decrease here in row 7, even though there isn't one, and then take it back out. And then I can demo the increases, although the color order is going to be the opposite. The technique is exactly the same. Will
Right.
that help you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool.
I
That
think
saves me a little time having to rip it out and start and go back again, and still potentially helps you.
Yep.
So I can still demo the same kind of stuff, but then I'll have to take some of it out and then go forward.
So
Will
it's
that-
really just the
The increases or the decreases giving you trouble mostly?
well, I just don't remember.
Okay.
I'm in my case, I always need to see something like 2 or 3 times before I remember
Gotcha.
it. I don't
Okay.
get time. And so I'm on the next stitch I have is the right slanting decrease.
This one. Okay,
so
great.
If
So-
you just created words, I will be able to follow it.
Okay.
I just don't remember.
Okay, sure. Well, I can give you the words. That's very easy, but I can also demo it and then take it out because I have an obvious place to do it right here as I start row 7. So I can show it and then remove it and then move on. And the increases, I obviously have another, 2 particularly good places for them here. So hopefully, having done the increases here and here, you'll be ready to go on with row 7 when you get there, having done each of the techniques at least twice. And it might help you also to do what I do up on screen, which is to do the increase and then pull it out and then do it again, just so that you get a little more practice on the rhythm, even if it's right in the same place as it previously was. So, all right, so let's do that. Just to tell folks what I'm about to do here, row 7, the way it's charted, as you can see, there's this sort of bit that sticks out on the side. And the reason for that is that I have increases, 2 increases here, 2 increases here. So 4 total stitches or pairs increased in this row, but only a single double decrease. Sorry, I'm just getting a little bit of echo here. I'm just gonna mute folks. There we go. Okay. You're welcome to unmute again if you need to, but so yeah, as you can see, I've got 4 increases, but only 2 decreases, 1 double decrease. This means that the row ends up 1 pair or 1 pair larger on either side, 2 pairs total. And so it sticks out a little bit. It doesn't really stick out. The reason that I have this happening is because when you have a decrease out here, which I could certainly have done, you have a decrease out here and then an increase up here in the next shaping row, the next layer 1 row. What happens is that the work tends to get tugged inward. And you can actually see that a bit down here. Note that it doesn't happen all that much here, but it does right here at the point where this direction change happens in the 3rd diamond. Because here I didn't do that. I didn't do the thing that I did down here because there isn't a practical place to do it. Here, since there is a practical place to do it, I cancel out that pulling in effect by letting the corresponding decrease to this increase be this one. So this, and this correspond to each other. This and this and this and this correspond to each other, but this and this correspond to each other, as do this and this. So the 2 paired increase and decrease that cancel each other out don't necessarily have to be in the same row, but they ought to be close to each other. So that's what we're doing here in 7 and 9. But for the benefit of Cynthia and anyone else who needs to see the single decreases done again, because there aren't any in row 7, I am just going to demo the single decrease here, even though it doesn't show up in the chart, just so that I can demo that once more, and then I'll take it out, and then I'll move forward, do the rest of this row. I'm going to do another single decrease here, and then take it out and do a double decrease, just so that folks get a chance to see those single decreases once more if you're lagging behind a little bit. So I'm going to start in now on row 7. So it doesn't really matter where in these 3 pairs I do the decrease, so I'm just going to do it right here, right off of the edge. Again, this isn't charted. This is just something that that I'm doing as a demo to show the decrease once more. So again, I'm going to reorder those 2 pairs. Once you get to that decrease symbol, the next 2 pairs on your needle are going to be reordered to get ready for that decrease. So you get 2 knits in a row followed by 2 purls in a row. And then this would be a right-slanting decrease. And so we're going to do the knit side right-slanting decrease, which is a knit 2 together. And this, by the way, is all in the handout. So, you know, it's written out in the handout. So that may help you as well. So knit 2 together, then yarns to the front and SSP. Now, again, you don't have to follow along with this if you are in this row. If you are still working row 5, this is a good place to follow along. But in this location, we're not actually doing these techniques. I realize I just talked through this entire technique and didn't actually talk about the technique. So I'm just going to redo it again. So that was the SSP. Knit 2 together, yarns to the front. SSP is slip 2 knitwise, pass 2 back, purl 2 together through the back of the loop. So that is the right slanting decrease. And I'm just going to undo it because we don't need it here. Just making sure my stitches are seated correctly on the needle. All right. So that was the right slanting decrease, and now undone. We are just going ahead with plain pairs through the first color change to get to the center diamond, the center point of this diamond. Right here. So now we're at this the center column again, and we're going to do a right lifted increase followed by a left lifted increase. These are the well, with a single pair in the middle. These are the same exact techniques we used in the row below, but now in opposite colors. The technique is exactly the same. It's just a change in which color you work as your knit and which color you work as your purl. So yarns to the back. You're going to use your right hand needle to go into the right leg of the stitch 1 below the next on your left hand needle. Like this. And then you're going to put your left hand needle into the front of that stitch and knit through the back of the loop with color A in this case, color B if you are in the row below. Then yarns to the front, flip the work upside down a little bit, look for the corresponding stitch on the other layer, which will be one below the next stitch on the left-hand needle on this layer and go into that from inside to outside with your right-hand needle. And then you're going to purl that normally. So you did a knit through the back of the loop and a purl normally. For your first increase, this was a right lifted increase, and now we're going to do one plain pair in the middle and then a left lifted increase. Yes, sorry, we are on row 7. I was just demoing a decrease here for Cynthia, who asked for a decrease demo again, but then I took it out and I just went forward. We are on row 7 though, expanding this middle diamond so that it has 3 AB pairs in the middle. So I've just done 2 of them. One was an increase, one was the plain pair in the middle, and we're going to do one more increase, a left lifted increase. Now using the left needle, going into the left leg of the stitch 2 below the previous one on the right hand needle. So this is the stitch, this is 1 below, this is 2 below right here. Going into that from inside to outside. And then we're going to knit that one normally. It's already on your left-hand needle when you do this, so you don't have to put your needle into anything. You just treat it as a normal stitch, although it is seated backwards. So when you knit it normally, it will feel twisted. Then yarns to the front, flip the work up a little bit, look for the corresponding stitch on the other layer, which is going to be 2 down from the previous stitch on the right hand needle on this layer. So this is the stitch, this is 1 down, and this little thing right here is 2 down. So once you've got your needle in that, you can put your hands back to normal position and purl that through the back of the loop. Again, it should feel twisted here. If it doesn't feel twisted, it means you're probably purling normally and you're going to end up with a hole. So you want to make it feel twisted so that it ends up twisted, so that the resulting loop that you are increasing into ends up twisted. Okay. So then we're going to do a couple of pairs, just matching what we have in the row below. 1 BA, 1 AB. Which puts us in position for the double decrease. But also to benefit Cynthia, who asked for another demo of a single decrease, I'm just going to do a single decrease and I'm going to take it out and I'm going to do a double decrease, which is actually what's needed here. So this is another single decrease. The exact alignment of colors and stitch is not the same in this row as it is in row 5. So just pay attention to your chart. But when you get to the left slanting decrease, again, you're just going to reorder 2 pairs. Those of you who don't need to see the single decrease, again, here, just pause here with me while I demo this, and then I'll take this out again and I'll redo it as a double decrease. So reorder the 2 pairs, and then yarns to the back, SSK. This is the easier of the 2. Yarns to the front, purl 2 together. That is the left slanting single decrease. So as I mentioned, I'm going to now take that back out again, and I'm going to re-show it as a double decrease, which is what's actually supposed to be here. Okay, so the double decrease. This is a new technique. This is one that hasn't shown up in this work before. And just like the single decrease, we have to reorder our pairs. And so we're going to start off with now 3 pairs. They're currently interlaced, so you have knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. You want knit, 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 purl, 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 and then decrease. So much like the other one, the two outer stitches are going to stay the same. They're not going anywhere, and it's just the two inner pairs that are going to get reordered. But as you can see, I've got two stitches, two purls that are going to get dropped to the back. There's no easy way to do this without dropping two stitches and then grabbing them again. So this is the reason I suggested you get used to, at least sometimes, doing that single decrease reorder by dropping that purl stitch and grabbing it again, because we're about to have to do that with two of them. I should say that there is a way to do this without dropping anything, but it isn't a shortcut exactly. So we're going to start off by slipping one stitch. This is a reordering of 3 pairs now. We're going to slip one stitch. This is the first stitch that's going to be held and isn't really involved in all of the reordering. And then we're going to put our needle into these 2 knit stitches. This should feel very similar to what you did for the single decrease, except that there's one extra stitch here, whereas for the single decrease, it was just this, this, and this. But since there's one extra stitch, that extra stitch is also going to get dropped off the needle. So we're going to pull the left-hand needle out of 4 stitches now. 2 of them are held and the other 2 are not. And when they drop, you catch them. This, by the way, while I have it in this position, and I'll demo that once more, but while I have it in this position, I have a really handy way of stuffing double knitting, because this gives me enough space to stick a finger down into, which means that I can actually feel the hollow space. And I can actually, this is enough space. If the hollow space below is a closed shape, I can actually stuff batting down this hole and then reintegrate, which is kind of neat. That's not what we're doing right now, but it's just a little extra here. If that's the kind of thing that you might be interested in doing with your double knitting at some point. Again, I'm just going to do that once more so you get to see it done one more time before I go on with the rest of the technique. Okay, so it's these 3 pairs that are about to get double decreased. And we're going to hold on to the first one, just slip it purlwise, and then we're going to insert our needle into the next 2 like this, skipping over the purls, and then pull out of 4 stitches, grab the 2 that flipped out to the back, and now I can put these 3 back on my left-hand needle. So I now have 3 knits in a row, followed by 3 purls in a row, which puts me in a good position to do a double decrease on the knit side, followed by a double decrease on the purl side. So there are multiple different types of double decrease. The one that I use by default, if there's no pressing reason to use any other, is what I call a centered left slanting double decrease. It is both centered and left slanting because a centered double decrease focuses on the middle stitch. I'll just assume it's a single layer one for now. It focuses on the middle stitch, and that middle stitch can either be on the inside or on the outside. If it's on the outside, it's called a raised double decrease because it gives this sort of raised edge at the up the middle. If it's on the inside, it is either going to be left or right slanting, depending on which of the 2 side stitches ends up on top. So left slanting means that the rightmost stitch ends up on top. right slants to the left, left slants to the right. A centered right slanting one would have the leftmost stitch on the top. And there's really, that's a fiddly technique, and really there's no reason to do it unless there is. And there are some very specific reasons in the Hesperos scarf, by the way, the one that shows up on the cover of Double or Nothing. There are some specific reasons why centered left slanting and centered right slanting are used. Most of the time, when you're doing double decreases that are just for taking up slack with the motifs and are happening outside of the color work, I just go with the simplest of the decreases, which is the centered left slanting one, or the simplest of the symmetrical decreases. And the way that this works is on the knit side, we're going to do something that is normally called a CDDP. So we're going to slip one knitwise, knit two together in color A. And you know this is color A because the symbol in the chart shows up on an AB pair. So we're going to make sure our knit is an A. And don't forget, though, that we need to then pass that slip stitch over and off, which gives us one pair out of 3. And you'll notice that this is centered on the center stitch. And the 2 side stitches are folding over the top of that center stitch, but the rightmost one is on top, which means that it is nominally slanting left. I'm going to just demo that once more. My cat has made an appearance. Well, we'll see if he comes and visits or not, or if he just complains from the background. Okay, so again, after the reordering, we're going to start with a slip one knitwise, knit 2 together in color A, and slip one, pass one over and off. So PSSO. Now, yarns to the front. Note that this one had a slip one knitwise and then a knit 2 together, right? Remember that the knit 2 together in the single decreases has a paired purl side version of an SSP. So you can probably imagine what is about to happen here. We're going to slip one purlwise and then SSP and then PSSO. So yarns to the front, slip one purlwise, and then SSP has a slipping 2 individually knitwise, passing 2 back, and then purl 2 together through the back of the loop in color B, opposite from what we knit with. And then don't forget, you need to pass this slip stitch over and off. And that gives you a mirror image version of the double decrease that you have on this layer. I'll do that one technique once more. I won't have a chance to demo this again for another couple of rows, so oops. Okay, so here's the purl side version of this again. I'm going to slip one purlwise, slip 2 individually knitwise, pass those 2 alone back, purl 2 together through the back of the loop in color B, and then PSSO. So that's a double decrease. And then we're going to do 2 pairs matching what we have in the row below, one AB and one BA, and then we're going to get to do some more increases. So here we are at the center of the next diamond, and we're going to do a right lifted increase, followed by a plain pair, followed by a left lifted increase, all of them in AB. So that's the knit side, right lifted increase, followed by purl side, right lifted increase, followed by a plain pair, and then we're going to do the left side, the left lifted increase. So the knit side, one of those, using our left hand needle. And then yarns to the front, again using the left hand needle to do the purl side version of the same thing. And then when you're done with all of those increases, all that's left in this row is just continuation of what you have in the row below, followed by a slipped pair. Okay. So as you can see, the diamonds are getting wider by nesting one diamond into the other. And the next row is just going to be another matching row, matching everything you already have on the needle. But since we are a little past halfway through, I'm going to say we're going to take a little break here. You can do the that matching row in your break or not. You can do it after you come back, is up to you. I'm going to pause the recording here briefly. The break is usually about 10 minutes long. You can use it to get up and stretch, get something to drink, whatever you need to do. And we'll be back here in approximately 10 minutes. My time is 4:44, so 4:54 we'll be back. And then we will get into rows 9 and beyond. So welcome back, folks, and we're going to start in shortly on row 9. Although, to be perfectly honest, all of the techniques that we've done so far have been are just going to be used in different ways in rows 9 and beyond. So there's not going to be a huge amount of new stuff in these coming rows. So largely what you should be doing is getting as far into this little swatch as you can, using the techniques that you've learned. And I will be demoing what needs demoing as I'm working through these rows, but also if folks have questions and I can demo anything else, I'm happy to do that. Switching back to the hand camera again. All right. So here I am back at the beginning of layer 1, starting now with row 9. So what row 9 is doing is sort of reversing what row 7 did. Row 7 had increases here, decreases here, decrease, double decrease here, 2 increases here. So we're just taking what was done in row 7 to open up these diamonds and start now to close them off. We're also beginning the next diamond. So here in the middle, we're doing 2 increases to correspond to this double decrease, but we're also putting a single color changed pair right here, which is the tip of the 3rd diamond in the middle. So much like the previous row, nothing is going on in the edge area. So we're going to work 4 pairs, and then we're going to decrease. Now, there is something subtly different about this decrease as compared to the previous one of this type, and that is that previously, all decreases have been done in the space outside the motifs, which means that they've consisted of 2 pairs of the same color order. Now we have a decrease that is 2 pairs of different color orders. It doesn't change the technique, it just changes the way it looks and feels a little bit. So what we're going to do with these next 2 pairs, we've done our 4 pairs in AB. The next thing is a left slanting decrease in BA. So the left slanting decrease is going to continue this line right here, and it's going to start moving it back in this direction to begin to close off the diamond. So we're going to take these two stitches here and switch them. Note that they're the same color. So just looking at the resulting color order on the needle isn't going to change anything. You just have to pay attention to the stitches. You still want to hold on to the 2 knit stitches here. Pull out of 3, grab the one that flipped out to the back, and then put these back on the needle again. Note that the color order of the 2 pairs doesn't change because the 2 in the middle that you're switching are the same color. But the important thing is you have 2 knits in a row followed by 2 purls. So we're now going to do an SSK in color B. And you know it's in color B because that is the color of the pair that the decrease symbol shows up on. It's a BA pair. So we're going to SSK in B, yarns to the front, purl 2 together in A. And a plain pair, and we're going to do that all over again with a right slanting decrease. So you can sort of begin to see, after having done those 2 decreases, the subtle movement of these diamonds moving back into the center point again. They're not really diamonds, sort of. There's not really a point on either side. As you can see from the sample images, they're sort of curved. We try our best to get there to be a point as much as possible. You can see it a little more clearly in the top one than in these. But it is a little bit smoother, but it is still continuing the motion. Okay, So one plain pair in AB. And now we're going to do a pair of lifted increases on either side of this column. This is the same kind of thing that we did down here, twice, one on top of the other. But this is in the middle of a bunch of the same color. The technique really doesn't change. It's just maybe a little harder to find the stitch that you are trying to increase into because you don't have the colors to guide you. So this is the stitch in the stitch 0, and this is 1 below right here. So and we're going to flip it up and look for the same thing on the other side right here. And then in the middle, rather than continuing in AB pairs, we want to make sure that we do a color change to BA. Again, this is the tip of the third diamond, the central diamond.
I have one quick question.
Cynthia, what's up?
You're increasing and not knitting into. See, what I was trying to do was increase and then knit a pair in the same place because it's 2 stitches into 1.
Right. So the tendency on the part of a lot of people, especially folks who are most used to doing single layer increases, is that an increase is 2 stitches into 1. Here it's 2 pairs into 1 pair. And so you have to finish the pair before you go on to the next one. So what you're ending up doing is a knit side increase, but before you do the knit into the column of the stitch that you increased into, you have to do the purl first. So you do a knit side one and then a purl side one, and then you do the knit of the column into which you increased.
I don't see you doing that though.
So I can go back, but I can show you, I can point them out. I did the knit side one right here. That was a color A right here. And then I did a purl side one here. And then I did a knit and a purl, just a regular double knit pair. Here, let me just go back and redo it. If it wasn't clear, then the easiest way is just to show it again. So this is the right lifted increase at column 8 in row 9. So I'm starting off with a knit side increase like that. But instead of immediately going on and knitting this, I'm first going to follow it up with a purl side increase. So I do everything by pairs. So I did a knit side increase, then yarns to the front, flip the work up a little bit, go and find the purl side corresponding stitch like this. And then, so that's the purl side version of the same thing.
Right.
And then I do a pair into that column that I had just increased into.
Same.
And that pair in this case is going to be a BA pair. So yeah, since everything is done in pairs, you got to make sure to finish the pair before you go on and do the next pair. Which, yes, is a little bit of a departure from the way it's done in single layer.
Why is it a BA pair when you're on an AB side?
So you're on the AB side, but you are creating, as you can see in the chart, see in the chart, you're creating the tip of this new diamond. So this BA pair here is really the same, has the same function as the ones here. When you, in the homework, when you did your first couple of color changes, it's creating the tip that you're going to do the increases into at the next point where that happens. So this central diamond here has to have something to begin from. And so that's what we're beginning from right here. Or the shorter answer would be, because the chart says to.
The increase is really based off of the one preceding it.
Right. So the increase is actually made into the stitch way down here. So these increases are made into this stitch right here. So at the point when you make this increase, this stitch is on the needle and this stitch is one below. When
what
you
I'm
do this
really
in,
trying
oh, sorry, go ahead.
What I'm really trying to say is on row 9, the stitch before that one on that row, the empty,
This one, yep.
the increase is based on that stitch.
No, the increase is based on, the increase is creating a stitch between this one and this one. And it is increasing into this. So here, I'll show you where I am actually, where I've actually worked. So here's the last part of this diamond. This is the decrease right here. It's a BA pair. So it's the last BA pair we've done before the one in the middle. There's one plain pair after that BA pair, and then another AB pair right after it. So this AB pair, the second AB pair you're seeing here after the BA pair here, that's the increase. This is just a plain pair. So you can actually follow this. Sorry, I don't know where my other pointer needle went, but you can follow the column around the edge of this. So it starts down here and goes around like that. And so there are no increases in it. It's just that column going from here to here. Here you can actually see an increase in the next pair, because this is the beginning of a new column. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at the chart, and
I think the important thing to remember is that this is quote unquote off the grid, which means that what you're seeing in the chart, this sort of jagged looking diamond, is not actually what you're getting. What you're getting is these lines are continuous.
what I was doing wrong. I know now what I was doing wrong. So
okay, cool.
I was trying to make 2 stitches out of the place where we were doing the increase.
But
that's not what we're doing.
Right. You don't want to actually make, you make one stitch from one side and one stitch from the other side before you go on to the next one.
But I was doing another pair after that.
You were doing a second pair. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's perhaps something that differs a little bit from the way you would do this in single layer knitting, is that this is just a single pair. It's not 2 pairs. The symbol simply tells you what type of increase to do to make this pair, but it isn't in and of itself 2 pairs.
Well, that clears everything up. I now know what I was doing wrong.
Okay, cool. Excellent. So yeah, when you do increases and decreases in single layer knitting, they may be notated a little bit differently. Here, the important thing to remember is that every square, regardless of what happens on it, is just a single pair. If there is another pair near it, or another pair created from the same increase, it's going to be notated that way. Since it's a single square, it is just a single pair. It's just that the increase symbol tells you the type of increase you need to do in order to make that pair happen.
Okay.
Same for the decreases. But decreases are a little more natural in that way. So onward then with the left lifted increase. We've done the right lifted one. We've done the central pair, color change from the row below, and color changed from the one before, which is the beginning of the central diamond. And then we're going to do a left lifted increase going into the stitch 2 below the previous one on the right hand needle. And this is in AB again. And then there's one plain pair between that increase and the next technique. And then we've got these single decreases. Sorry, waiting for the siren to go by. Okay. Yeah, so this is the same set of single decreases that we did over here. They have the same technique. It's just that the color order is different from the way it was in the previous times that we've done them out here in the empty space. So once you've done those two decreases, all that's left is to finish out the row in AB pairs, finishing with a slipped pair. And then the next row, as usual, is just a rest row or matching row. So the only thing that is different in the following row, row 11, is, well, we've got the double decreases again, actually. So I'll have a chance to demo those once more. But we also have these sort of floating single increases. All the increases we've done so far have been double, essentially one on either side. So these just happen out in the middle of nowhere. So their direction kind of doesn't matter that much. And as a matter of fact, the technique barely matters as long as you get an increase. So I can actually show you what a make one would look like in this situation, in case you're interested in knowing how to do a double knit make one, even though that's not actually what's charted here, just as a little bonus technique. Make ones are useful for the for Victorian raffia. They're in there. So if that's one of the things that you're interested in doing, it might not hurt to see a make one done here. But first, I'm just going to do my rest row.
Alasdair, it's Linda. I have a
Yeah. What can I
question.
do for you? Go for it.
Can I show you what I've got?
Yes, one moment. Let me just find you in my images here. And okay, go ahead. You are
Just take
now
my background off so you can see it properly.
Sure.
So this side makes me very happy.
Yeah, looking great.
This
I'm
side,
a little
not so
worried.
much.
Okay.
So
Yep.
clearly I've done, I think, decreases wrong.
Yes, and that's
Yeah.
not at all uncommon. It means that you've done your paired decreases incorrectly. The pearl side ones are easy to, because you don't see them when you do them.
Right.
It's easy to forget which ones go where. And so this is just something that comes with practice. As you do those decreases, just before you go on, just sort of flip the work over, check to make
Mhm.
sure whether it looks right. If it doesn't, undo it and you don't have to undo the entire decrease. Just undo the pearl side one and do the other one. You've only got two possible pearl side decreases for single decreases. So
Okay.
if it turns out that you used the wrong one, it should be pretty obvious if you just flip it over at that point and then just do the other one. Does that help?
Great.
Or
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's what I
see that. I
suspected.
see that happen all the time, because there's so many different techniques here, and it's so easy to just put a decrease in without thinking about which one you really need at that point, or not remembering which one gets paired with which. And that's why I give you that little mnemonic memory trick to tell you that every technique here is paired with one technique that goes through the back of the loop and one technique that doesn't. So if you remember what your knit side one is, because most people remember their knit side directional decreases. If you remember which one you are doing for a particular directional decrease, then you can extrapolate which pearl side one you need to do. So if you do an SSK, you need to do a purl two together as your pearl one, because the SSK uses a back of the loop technique. And so therefore the pearl side one doesn't. And so it's a purl two together. If you do a knit two together, that doesn't use a back of the loop technique. And so the pearl side one does. So, so perhaps that will help, reiterating that perhaps will help.
Great.
So, but yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is it's just a swatch. It's not that important. You can do it again, and you can, you'll have chances to do all of those techniques that you did in these diamonds in the one in the middle. So you can at least try to make the center diamond look better than the other two. And you also can always just redo the entire thing later if you want to. All right, any other questions before I go on with row 11? Row 11 largely is going to give me the opportunity to demo the double decreases once more, which I've really only gotten a chance to do once in this swatch so far. And also an opportunity to show a different type of increase, the make ones, even though they're not technically charted in here. So any questions before we move on with that? Okay. So we're going to do a linked pair and a plain pair, and then an increase. Now, the increase that's charted is a left lifted increase, which means that you're under normal circumstances going to be going into the left leg of the stitch two below the previous on the right hand needle from inside to outside, etc., etc. But if you'd rather do that as a make one, just so that you get a chance to try a different type of increase, keep in mind that a make one is more likely to create a little hole. But here in the negative space, the background, it's not necessarily going to be super noticeable. So it may be worth a try. A make one is really just an afterthought yarn over with a twist in it. So because it involves the word yarn over, you can imagine that there might be a hole involved too. Because it's an afterthought, it means that you don't have as much yarn as you normally would in a yarn over. Because it has a twist, we are going to end up closing the hole as much as we can. But this is going to work in a very similar way. Rather than working into the leg, right or left, we're going to work into the bar that goes in between the two stitches. But there are two bars. There's one on the front and one on the back. So for this one anyway, we're going to be doing an increase into the color A bar with color A and the color B bar with color B, and the color A bar is already on the front where it needs to be, and vice versa. So since all of the stuff on either side of this is AB and the increase pair is AB, this is the most natural way to do a make one. And so we're going to have yarns in back to do this, and we're going to, as usual, pick up from inside to outside with our right hand needle. The needle you use for this is important because inside to outside ends up seating this normally on the needle, forward on the needle as opposed to backward. Whereas if you go inside to outside with a left hand needle, it ends up seated backward. So it's quite different. If you really want to use your left hand needle, go from outside to inside. I generally go with my right hand needle inside to outside like this, and then I put my left hand needle into the front of that and knit through the back of the loop. This should feel very similar to the lifted increase. It's just rather than using the leg, you're using the bar. This is technically a make one left, not a make one right. Make ones have a nominal directional component. It's not as heavily directional as a lifted increase. And in a lot of cases, the directionality isn't even noticeable. In certain circumstances, especially in lace, it's going to be more noticeable. There are situations where you want an increase in lace, but not a hole. And so a make one left or a make one right would make sense there. Here, we want a make one, and the direction doesn't really matter. And so I use make one left because the technique is simpler than the make one right. So that's the knit side one. I'll do it again just to show it once more. So again, I'm using the bar between two knit stitches. And I've got my yarns to the back. I go from inside to outside through that bar with the right hand needle. I put my needle, my left hand needle into the front of that loop, and then I knit through the back of the loop like that. Then yarns to the front, flip it up a little bit, find the bar on this side, go from inside to outside through that on with the right hand needle again. And then you're going to put your needle into the back of that loop, the left hand needle into the back of that loop, which positions you for a normal purl, and finish the purl. So that's a knit side make one, followed by a purl side make one, both make one lefts. So that's just a bonus technique. The type of increase that we use here doesn't matter that much, so I figure may as well demo a different type just so that you get a chance to see that. I can demo the make one right, but it is a bit of a pain. In general, and even in the Victorian raffia where I show you make ones left and right, I say in the pattern text, If the make one right is too much trouble for you, just do make one lefts in those locations. It's totally fine. It will not really be noticeable. Okay, so regardless of the type of increase you've used here, you should now have 5 pairs before the first color change. And the first color change is going to be part of a double decrease. So I'm going to show the double decrease again. This double decrease is the same type as we used down here. The 2 side columns are going to fold over the top of the central one. But here it's going to be used to close off the top of this diamond. If we use the raised double decrease here, we'd end up with a hole at the top of the diamond. So we want to make sure that the 2 side pairs close over the top in one direction or the other. And because the direction doesn't matter, use the simpler one, make the centered left slanting. So as before, we want to get our knits together and our purls together. So I hold on to the first knit, and then I put my needle through the other 2. Sorry, a little splitty there. There we go. Other 2 knits. And then I'm going to pull my needle out of 4 stitches, 2 pairs. Well, it's not even really 2 pairs because it's the end of 1 pair, 1 whole pair, and then the beginning of the last. But 4 stitches. And then grab these 2 stitches that flipped out to the back. By the way, in this double decrease or down here, I didn't mention this, but if you're concerned about losing those 2, you can always just pinch the base as you drop them so that they're less likely to fall further. So there we go. Back on the needle, ready to do the double decrease. So we're going to slip 1 knitwise, knit 2 together, PSSO. Then slip 1 purlwise, SSP. Note that the knit 2 together and the SSP are paired just as they are in the single decreases. And then PSSO again. So you can see that this closes off the diamond. It gives us a nice tip of a diamond on both layers. Now we're not going to get to, I don't think, row 13 before we have to finish this workshop. So I just wanted to mention one thing that happens in row 13 that might be a little counterintuitive. Sorry, there we go. Row 11 and row 13 are actually identical, except that the colors are different. You'll notice that the increases are in the same place, the double decreases, the increases, double decreases, etc. It's all in the same place. It's just the color orders are different because we're following the pattern or the movement of the diamond. So this double decrease that happens out here in the empty space, I say it's a little counterintuitive because it's not closing off anything, or it doesn't appear to be closing off anything. But keep in mind that the top of a knit stitch looks like a little, well, yeah, okay, my fingers aren't at the same level, but you get the idea. It's a little V. The top of a knit stitch is a little V. If what you want at the top of your diamond is a little V, you can leave that out. But if you want a nice point at the top of your diamond, what you want to do is make another double decrease above the tip of the diamond, which will create a point by closing off, by sort of creating a border for the diamond. So that's a little trick to make the point, the top point pointier. The bottom point doesn't need that because the bottom point is already the bottom of a V shape. Since this is the top of a V, if you don't want the top of your diamond to look like this, you do another double decrease in the negative space, which closes it off. So I'm going to do 2 AB pairs here. And then we're going to do another set of increases. These are exactly the same as the first increases you did in row 5. So knit and purl, followed by an AB pair. This is the second diamond, the one that is inlaid into the first diamond in the middle. Two more AB pairs and we're back to another double decrease. So again, reorder the pairs so you get knit, 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 purl, purl, purl. And slip one knitwise, knit 2 together, color B, PSSO. Yarns to the front, slip one purlwise, SSP in color A, and then PSSO. Now we have an opportunity to do another increase here. I'm inclined to do a make one left again, but I may as well show a make one right. Make one right has you using your left-hand needle to go from inside to outside. Since this is seated forward on the needle, in order to twist it, you need, sorry, it's seated backwards on the needle. In order to twist it, you need to knit it normally. But in order to do that, you have to get your needle into this extremely weird place. And so what I do, if you really need to do a make one right, is I sort of take my finger and I push this stitch so that the front half of the loop gets super loose and the back ends up tight, and that gives me something to stick the needle into. It's an annoying technique, but it's not too bad. If you have to do a lot of them, it works. And again, I'm going to use my left-hand needle to go into the purl sidebar. And I'm going to do the same sort of thing here. I'm going to do, that was a normal knit, and this is going to be a purl through the back of the loop. And similarly, I'm going to push it backward. And you can't really see what I'm doing so easily here, but I'm going to push it backward to open up that back loop that I'm trying to put my needle into. And that makes it easier to finish the make one right. So there we go. You know, it's a mildly annoying technique, but it's not terrible. And as I mentioned, if there's no pressing reason that you need a directional make one, just use make one lefts everywhere. It's pretty simple to just do that. Okay. So we're at about 18 minutes from the end, and what makes most sense for me to do at this point is one matching row and then demo the bind off. I don't really have enough time to do an entire row full of increases and decreases and still hit the end of the workshop on time. So I'm going to do a matching row, and then I'm going to set up for the bind off. And if anyone's got any more questions, you've got 18 more minutes. And I'm happy to answer what I can and demo what needs to be demoed if at all possible. So Jermaine, good question. How do you access the video? Obviously, the folks who are watching this afterwards, you already figured that out. But the video I will send you a link to after the class. Usually I post these up I post them up within a day. This one is going to be a bit delayed because, you know, the slightly dirty secret to this is that I have a limit to how many gigabytes of video I can upload per week. Normally, when I do workshops, they don't run into that limit. But because the last video that I uploaded was just a couple of days ago, and it was the double knit entrelock, which takes up almost the entire quota, I don't have enough room to upload this one, I don't believe, until I have a little more space in my quota. So I will check as soon as I'm done here when my quota resets, and that will tell you when I'll be able to send the video. It is not going to be quite as quick as normal, but it will be soon. In less than a week, I will say. How much less, I'm not entirely certain yet. Oh, and Lorian asks, how long do we have access to the video for? About 6 months is my usual estimate. It could be longer. I have not been doing these videos for that long. And my assumption was that I was going to have to start clearing space at some point to make room for new videos. But the amount of new space needed is going to depend on how much I'm using. And so it was just my best estimate that I would leave them up for 6 months. So, you know, that's a better deal than you'll get at any of the big shows, which leave them up for like a week or two. But it's not a lifetime thing. And Susan, you said, do you understand that the videos are on Vimeo? Yes, they are. And I think you followed me on Vimeo, so you must have a Vimeo account. I think I've only ever been followed by one person ever on Vimeo, so I'm pretty sure that was you. So So if you have a Vimeo account or want to make one, you can also comment on the videos and I can answer questions there. But it's not that common to have a Vimeo account, so I don't think they cost anything. It's just that people don't. Why am I using Vimeo rather than YouTube? I don't know. Because I can set access privileges easily on Vimeo, and I don't know if YouTube makes it that easy. So what I'm doing right now, just to let you know, is I'm setting up for the bind off. This may very well be something you've seen before if you've taken other of my workshops, but especially as I don't know who all is going to be watching this afterwards, I'm still going to demo the bind off. This is, by the way, a technique that is also on YouTube as a standalone video. So this little bit of it, at the very least, you can have access to forever, not just the 6 months. But again, this is a technique that is on that I do in pretty much every workshop, except Entrelock, which doesn't have a bind off because it doesn't need one. So I'm going until the end of this row and I am working every pair, including the last one, which I would normally slip. So every pair here is worked. And I'm gonna break my ends. So you notice I've broken my ends with roughly the same amount of length that I have for my initial ends and initial tails. And clearly not enough to do a bind off with. That's okay because the row that I just did actually is the bind off row itself. And so I'm going to slide the entire thing to the other end of my needle. Because I'm on a circular, this is simple to do. If I were on straights, I'd have to slip, slip, slip back until my needle point were sticking out the wrong end. Or you can do this onto a, you can do that row onto a circular or a DPN, depending on the length of your bind off. Just so that you can do that second step of sliding it to the other side. So now that I've slid it to the other side, obviously my needle point is sticking out the wrong edge. My ends are all the way over here and incidentally too short to do anything with anyway. And so clearly I'm not going to be working with the ends. I'm just going to be slipping these stitches. So I'm going to slip one knitwise, slip one purlwise, pass one over and off. Slip one knitwise, pass one over and off, slip one purlwise, pass one over and off. So I'm slipping all my knits knitwise, all my purls purlwise, and every time I have two on the needle, I pass one over and off. So it's the same as the simplest bind off, except that, of course, it's done in double knitting, but more to the point, you do the entire row first, and then you go back to the beginning and reprocess it. So why do I do it this way? Because I could have just done the bind off while I was working that row, and I would have ended up with something similar, but not quite the same. And this is the reason why. I'm just going to pause it right here. Note that what I've got here is a pretty clean and even bind off based on the size of the loops that I've already made. A bind off that is reminiscent of the cast on with a little peak of the other color sticking out. That happens on both layers. If I were to do this bind off as I was working the row rather than after the entire row is done, note that the last 2 stitches that I've done in this row stretch, which means, or they're both connected to the source yarn balls directly, so they stretch. That will be the case for the last 2 stitches you've done in double knitting at any point. Whether it is the last 2 in the row or here in the middle. The last 2 that you've done at any given time in double knitting will both be directly connected to the source yarn balls and therefore will stretch. So if I were to take this one and try to pass it over this one and off, it would very likely stretch a little bit. Even if I were holding onto the base, it's still going to stretch a bit as I pull it over and off, which means that I would then have to tug it back into place around the base of this stitch. What that means is that if I'm doing that with every single stitch, every single bind off stitch is personally adjusted by me tugging it back into place. Very likely what I'm going to end up with in that case is too loose, too tight, or just an uneven bind off. So imagine if you were doing this in single layer knitting, standard bind off. You'd be taking this stitch, imagine the purls weren't there, taking this stitch and passing it over this one and off. So this one is less likely to stretch because it is not directly connected to the source yarn balls, but if I tug on it, it will steal yarn out of this loop to steal yarn out of the source yarn balls. But if I go 3 back, it doesn't matter how hard I tug on this, it's unlikely to get yarn out of both of these loops to get yarn out of the source yarn balls. That said, if my yarn were more slippery or my needles were, or both, it's very possible that I could actually tug on this and get yarn out of both of these loops to get yarn out of the source yarn balls. So how about 4 back? How about 5? How about all the way to the beginning? So these loops are never going to get yarn out of the source yarn balls. They're too far away. And so each of these loops is going to stay the same size and shape that it was when it was on the needle. And any subtle variation can easily be fixed just by tugging it a bit. That guarantees that my bind off is going to be perfectly clean and even and is never going to require that I do any individual stitch adjustment, at least until I get to the very, very end. If the resulting edge that you're getting is not stretchy enough for you, you can adjust it not by doing anything now, but by undoing the bind off up till this point, undoing that last row, and then redoing it on needle size up, which will give you loops that are very slightly larger and therefore a very slightly stretchier bind off. In a situation like that, it'd be probably best if you didn't break your yarns. So if you're still adjusting this to try to figure out what needle size to use, maybe don't break your ends just yet. Similarly, if you wanted it tighter, a needle size down will help with that. So I'm going to keep going on this, and I'm going to show you how it ends. Okay, so I go until I have 1 pair left on the needle, not 1 stitch. So I'm not going to pass this one over and off. I'm going to go until I have 1 pair left. And note that they stretch in and out. They slip in and out like this. And the reason that that happens is because you worked that last pair. If you had slipped the pair, they wouldn't slide in and out like this. And so if you notice that they aren't sliding in and out. It means you did slip the pair rather than working it, which is understandable, as that's what you would have done in any other row. But it's easy to fix because your ends are right here. All you really need to do is undo the last PSSO here, knit one, redo the last PSSO, purl one, and then you're back in business. So at this point, all you really need to do to finish it is stretch them out a little bit, reach through, grab both ends, pass them together through both loops, remove the needle, and tighten. There's your bind off. Given that there's a little bit of increasing and decreasing going on, there's likely to be a little bit of a pooch of the shape of the bind off here. If you had done this where it actually says in the chart after all of this is done, it's less likely to show up, as you can see in the pretty flat top of this. But increasing and decreasing is likely to distort your edges in various ways. I already talked about how it can distort the side edges here, and how we try to deal with that down here with leaving out a decrease and then an increase. There may be other ways to fix that down here, but honestly, I kind of like the way it ends up looking. You end up with this sort of crenellated edge, and I'd rather think of it as a design feature than a bug.
Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to come back anytime and use it as a reference as you expand your double knitting knowledge and repertoire. I intend to release more of these recorded virtual workshops, as well as more and more advanced tutorials on double knitting in the future. If you want to be notified on when those drop, please subscribe to this channel, or join my mailing list, or visit my blog. If you feel so inclined, please consider dropping a tip at my Ko-fi page, linked below, if you'd like to offer more regular support to my continued development of double knitting techniques and help ensure more of these videos are forthcoming. Please consider joining my Patreon. Higher tiers also get free patterns and downloadable versions of my videos. If you're interested in my books or patterns, digital copies are available on Ravelry and elsewhere, linked from my website. Depending on when you view this, physical copies may still be available. Thanks again, and stay adventurous.